I've got a confession to make.
I need to get this off my chest. As a business owner, we all make mistakes.
I've got to confess.
And we are live again. Mr. Kim Barrett, how are you doing?
Doing awesome, Mr. Charlie, sir. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. I'm impressed we're keeping up with the excitement of the podcast. I'm actually still really enjoying doing it. I was worried that after a few episodes it was going to become a bit of a hassle.
Yeah.
But I'm loving it.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. So much fun.
Yeah, it's been pretty exciting. We're recording episode 7 at the moment, but we've actually just, of course, got to do the hand signal. But we've actually kind of just officially launched this project, and now some of the episodes are coming live. And I mean, I've even seen myself on Facebook a few times and had friends comment, which is nice. It's been that little reinforcement that we're doing something pretty cool here.
Yeah, 100%. I'm loving it. It's very good fun, and it always makes me have a bit more structure and have to think about things in business even more so, because I know I'm going to have to talk about it the next week.
Well, that's been one of the things is I find that in the conversations about the podcasts, we've been asking each other's really good questions. Like whenever we want to talk about topics and then go into them, I find that I'm almost getting like a business coaching session or therapy session as a part of the process. So it's been good.
It is. We'll have to get a couch for you to lay on for the next episode. You can just kick back and relax.
I think that has to be my next studio upgrade. I'll put that on the list. Now, I feel like I need to let you explain the concept of this episode, the business sandwich, which I think is a fantastic concept. So why don't you give the listeners a bit of a run through on what the business sandwich is and what we're going to be doing in this episode?
Sure. So I take it from originally something that I called I've learned and taught and stuff, which is the feedback sandwich, which is always you give something good, a stretch or not a negative, but an area for improvement, and then you cap it off with another good thing. So we're talking about, it's like, what if we did the business sandwich being what's something that's worked really well in the last week? What's our area of improvement that we've identified? And then what's something exciting that we're going to focus on for the next week that we can report back on next week as well?
Yeah, I reckon it's a great idea. And what a way to lead into this episode. So I think I'm going to get you to lead the charge here. Tell me what's been working for you in this last week.
All right. So what's been working for me is obviously listening and being around Charlie so much. Kind of feel bad that I haven't worked myself out of my business yet. I feel like I'm behind. If I'm a cyclist, I'm coming 17th or something like that. I'm not even in the front pack. So I feel like that's a very big area of improvement for me, which I set as an intention for 2018. So what's been working well is I've been using so many people told me about it, and then you told me about it again as well, which is Loom or use Loom or however they want to call it. And using that just to record things really quickly whenever I'm doing them, as opposed to going, oh, now I have to go and develop all these things. I've just started a notes section, and I just started going, cool, here's how we add templates into Google Drive, web merge. Here's how we automate our contract creation and invoice creation, just recording me doing it, so that now if anyone ever asks, that's cool, just watch the video and it's all done. And as well, most of those are only going to be done once unless we add a new product or service in. So once they're done as well, I'm killing 2 birds with 1 stone. So now we have a lot of our processes automated, which is for me is a big stress off my back, because if I'm away or my GM's away, which is going to happen end of next week / the following week, then there's no one messaging me saying, hey, can you do a contract for this? Can you do an invoice for this? So that's all done. So that's what I'm very excited about, and building more of that into our business so I can reach my goal by June 30. So that's been very, very exciting times over the last week for me. And I've never been so excited to build processes and record and systemize stuff. So it's because I feel like the goal line's there and I'm running towards it. So I'm pretty excited by that. So that's been my big one for the last week.
That's a huge one. And that is such an exciting stage and a fun stage to play in. It's something I think a lot of business owners put off, is documenting things, the systems and procedures. But what a tool Use Loom is. So Use Loom is a screen recording tool that records your screen as well as your video and audio. And it's such a great way to document. I would argue that anyone, of all the tools, that is actually probably the most important one for business owners at the moment, from doing efficient communication online. It's absolutely changed my world, particularly with project management and system documentation.
Well, it's 5 times easier because normally it's like, cool, you do a screen record and then it downloads, and then maybe you tweak it a little, like chop a little bit, and then you have to upload it, and then you have to take the upload and put it somewhere, and it's just annoying. Whereas there, it's like, cool, you get a URL straight away, done. You don't have to upload it, you don't have to edit. As you've done it, as soon as you click the little tick, you're done and you've got the link. So for me, that was my biggest hurdle before. It's like, oh, I've got to record all of them, then I've got to download, then I've got to download, then I've got to edit them, then I've got to upload them. And now it's just like, cool, bang, done. And so much faster and better. So it's very exciting for me, and I'm just doing it more and more.
Did you find, and I remember this stage as well, and I'm curious here, but it's like, it's really interesting when it comes to systems and procedures that I used to put it off. Like I really used to dread it and the topic and avoid it. But then when you get into that flow and that feeling of like, all right, I know I can hand this off to someone else now, it doesn't have to sit on me, becomes a little bit addictive. Like you get on that roll, and then all of you, you're recording Looms for everything or making a system for anything.
Yeah, 100%. As you said, it does. It's like an alleviation feeling because you're like, wow, I'm doing this now and I can give it to someone. I'm not going to have to do it again. So it's just exciting. And obviously, you're still going to have to, for the first few things anyway, double check everything and whatnot. But it is definitely exciting because, you're on that path. So for me, it's, charging hard towards my goal, which is I'm very excited for. So that's been my week. So it's been super fun. And obviously, thank you for I have to hear something I feel like 100 times before I then use it. So it's like, keep seeing people doing Loom videos in here, and then Charlie's like, look, these two things are really good. You should use them. I'm like, damn it. Okay, cool. And then just started using it straight away. So it's been good. But that's my number one. But what about you, Charlie? What has been the big thing for the last week that has worked, excited you, something like that?
Oh, it's fun. I found it really funny, even when we were discussing this before off the air. It feels like the roles have switched a little bit this week. So you're excited by something about systems, which is normally my thing, like absolutely my jam. And on the other side, I've had a fantastic week with Facebook ads. So Facebook ads have really been working for me at the moment, which is not uncommon. Like I've had many successes with it, but I must admit, I've been a bit rusty. It's not something I've spent a huge amount of time on in the recent months. I've had people working on that from there, and I've been playing with a few campaigns and building out some things on other projects I'm working on and things like the association. And it is hitting it out of the park at the moment. I feel like I've moved into this area of just enjoying Facebook like the good old days, where it's just converting like mad and getting that engagement. Now, I want to go a little bit deeper on that one because something I want to disclose there is one thing, and I think we get this a lot, is people will say, oh, I'm having success with Facebook ads, but they don't be really specific. They keep it a little bit mysterious. So I want to go a little bit more specific. I want to just like disclose it on a huge level, what's worked really, really well for me. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to Facebook ads, and I've kind of been thinking this for a while, but the things that are performing the best are videos with captions, and in particular, testimonials. So having testimonial videos done with subtitles or captions, whichever one you want to particularly call them, and using them as advertisements on Facebook with the video running. And there's a few reasons why I think this is working. One, I think Facebook's favoring video because they're in a little bit of a war with YouTube still, and they want to make video the place on Facebook. So thank you. Keep that going. I'm appreciating it. Two, and this was something really interesting I found out recently, is that 33% of the videos watched on Facebook are watched with the sound off. So if you're
thought it was higher than that. I thought it was like over 60%.
Oh, wow. The numbers I got from someone else, and to be fair, I'm not checking these numbers. I just thought, hey, we'll give it a go and see what happens. But we've put captions on all the videos we use, or subtitles, and I've seen a significant improvement in the watch through rate. So like how many people are watching videos for a longer duration. So I think that's two really important things. But then the last one here is about the use of testimonials. So videos and subtitles, really important. But I think, I'm going to call it, I think we've all had enough of people getting on Facebook telling us how good they are. It's so much more powerful to have honest reviews of other people telling you how good you are. and having that sincerity to it. So that's been what's working for me. I suppose I better get feedback from the legend himself, the Titan of Facebook. Is that close to what's been working for you at all?
It is, but I have a big question for that, because I would be very curious to know that on the targeting aspect, because I know the client that you work with and you do a lot of marketing for also put out a lot of content. Do you think that just doing that without all the content, the value creation, the value add, you would get the same results you are currently?
Ooh, so this is where the conversation gets even more interesting, doesn't it? So like now we're asking the question is it worth doing content on the social media platforms before you run ads for other things, or does the direct response stuff still work? I believe, like on a high level here, that if you were going to be doing ads on Facebook, whether you're promoting events or workshops or lead generation for a consult, or you're selling products, it is absolutely essential that you were doing other content as well. I think that there's like an ecosystem effect going on where it's like if you're making great content and having people engage with that, that contributes to a huge level to the success you have with your ads online in general.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And that was the reason for my question, because I feel like sometimes people go, oh, if I just do this on my ads, I'm going to get a phenomenal result, versus like, cool, if you've only ever done direct response and you've never given value back and you're always taking, can you expect the same thing? And I don't think it's true. I have the same viewpoint as you. I think you do need to add value and provide and content and give back to the audiences that you work with. And I think that that's what correlates to really phenomenal results, because any of our clients that have got really epic results have always done a lot of content, and the others that have maybe a similar, if not even a better offer, been around in the industry longer, actually get worse results because they don't show and don't give as much value and content on their page organically. It's like pulling hen's teeth to get them to do that. But then they wonder why their ad costs are higher than someone else. And they go, well, we did the same thing. How come they're only paying this and we're paying this? And I'm like, well, when's the last, like your last post was in August. Like you haven't, like what are you giving out, So I feel like it's a very, very big and important point. So I just wanted to, kind of loop around that one, because I think it is important for people to remember. You got to do that as well.
I think it's a very important thing to include. And like, even in what I'm saying here and being transparent, I think it's even more important to be transparent that there was pre-work done here. This wasn't a standalone Facebook campaign or campaigns, I should say. There's been a few of them. It's been that, there's been content on these platforms, and in particular video is doing really, really well. But really when it comes to, I suppose, if you're in a business that's going to be selling things online, are we at that stage where we just call it, where it's like you have to be doing content if you're in the spaces now? Apart from maybe if you're in certain trades or services that are on demand, like a dentist, if you've got a sore tooth. But even then.
Yeah. Live stream a tooth extraction. I mean, it's what people want, give them what they want.
Well, there's a couple I've come across. Like, think of Dr. Pimple Popper. Which, if you don't know what Dr. Pimple Popper is, that is someone who basically films popping of pimples, but it's a doctor popping like medical plaquettes and stuff like that. Crazy amount of following.
Yeah, people love, like, there's weird people that listen. Like, my auntie's one of them. She's like the weird, like, she comes over and she's like watching YouTube on her phone. I'm like, what are you watching? I look, I'm like, oh, I can't even look at that right now. But she loves it. Absolutely loves it. It's so weird.
Well, the other one I've come across that I think is doing really well is, and I would encourage everyone to check this out, is a snake catcher in Brisbane. And he films every snake he catches, or majority. He films a lot. I'm not sure how many he actually does. But I have sat on his page and like gone through it. If there's ever a snake, I'm calling this dude.
Yeah. So is he the one that had the snake in the printer?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I saw that one as well. Yeah, no, I think you do. Like, I think you have to be on it, or at least be working towards it. And I've been saying it for ages that people have to, like, you have to. It's but I think it's getting closer to the point where it's non-negotiable. Whereas I think previously, even last year, some people were like, I can get away with it. But I think it's something that has to be done now, is my firm opinion.
Yeah, I'll stick to that as well. I completely agree. I mean, even right now, we're making this podcast and giving people content that they can consume because we believe in it. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. So now we move on to the area of improvement or the challenge you've faced in the last little bit, Kim. Lay it down.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest one for me is we had some team changes, and I anticipated that there was going to be a little bit extra stuff for me, but especially because I've been focusing on the systems and automation, and due to some family issues as well, my general manager was away last week, so I felt up until like this week, I could feel a very big, I was like heavy load, like heavy shoulders, because I know that I had so much stuff going on, which I know will pass, but I think I don't think I effectively manage that transition period properly. Like if I was to do it again, I would definitely put some kind of stop losses or things in place to cover me for that period, because when I'm focusing on growing and developing the business and many different things that I'm working on, then I'm taking over the GM role because my GM was away, which was unfortunate. Plus then like the lead on ad accounts and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I've been getting some, like I've turned some really good campaigns around, which I was very happy with, but it's been a lot busier than I should have been considering the resources that I have available. So I don't think I managed that part very effectively or well. So for me, that's the bigger thing, is that when it comes to planning a transition, is doing more thought into that and looking at and I think it was again, like I always take things and remember things from the book Principles by Ray Dalio, but it was like the second and third level consequences, not just the first. It's like I didn't really think, it's like, cool, but what happens if someone else is away? And then what happens if we sign up 2 new clients? And going a bit deeper down the contingencies, as opposed to just going, oh, this is what I can see being any issues. Cool, that's not going to be a problem, but not like breaking it down more. So that's definitely a big learning that I've taken into my planning of things going forward. So this week has been busy, still good, but it's been, I shouldn't have felt some of the stresses I put myself under.
It's such a challenging topic when staff leave, or when you have to move them on, or when they're away sick, or any of those things can often show up. And it's certainly an area a lot of us can ignore. Now, I got some really interesting perspective that I'll share on here from someone called James Schramko, which you haven't checked him out. Awesome guy, your book out, love his stuff. But he always said that a business has to have the Noah's Ark principle in place. And the idea being, Noah's Ark, you've got to have 2 of everything. So that if someone leaves or you need to change people over, that you can become effectively a lot more bulletproof. You can survive the flood. One of the challenges with that, though, is in a lot of small businesses, they just don't have the size or volume of work to facilitate it. So my personal view is that we've got to kind of anticipate of growing to a size where we can have what we need to kind of rise through those things, or be prepared to face the things you've got in play right now with gearing up to have a lot on other people's plates.
Can I ask you a question, Charlie? Based on some recent hires, what is your plan? You've got Lisa come on board, 2IC. What is your plan and setup for having the second Lisa, but the Noah's Ark principle attached to someone in that higher level management and overseeing, if you will? What's your idea and thoughts around that?
Ooh, this is something that keeps me up at night. No, not really. Lisa's doing a fantastic job and thriving in some great results. A lot of those Facebook results I spoke about earlier are actually because of her. So she's doing really well. But the next part there is how do you kind of mitigate that risk with a hire like that? And the answer is, much like I said before, is I'll hire someone else at a high level who could step in to handle those things. And I think things have got to be documented at a well enough place where people that are necessarily working with Lisa. So for instance, I'll give you a really good example here is that if Lisa's, let's say, working on this podcast, hypothetically, the other people that are working on this podcast, like my VA Juvie, needs to have documented systems of what Lisa's doing. So should that time arrive, she can step up into that temporary role of managing the workload the best she can there.
I like it. Very cool. And the reason my question, I've got obviously new people coming in. I'm going, cool. Well, what thought processes should I be having to anticipate for that? And that as well, though, I think is when you have the Noah's Ark principle, I think it's very good to identify what of that is actually automation. So for example, like I said, we had contracts and invoices going out, and then this week I automated that whole process from the sales team. One click of a button when they submit their sale that they've just made does everything else, whereas previously it was being done by her to try and alleviate that being something that then anyone else has to even worry about. And then I recorded the process of doing that as well.
So that brings up a very interesting point as well, or a different conversation, is like how fast tech is moving, and all the things that are becoming more available that weren't previously is just crazy. Right? How often is there a new tool out? Like we already discussed one on this call, Loom.
Yeah.
And like how often is something new coming out that we're just not aware of that actually could automate a section of our business? I'll actually bet, I'll call it right now, if I sat on Zapier for long enough, I'm sure I would find things that should be connected that aren't, and all the rest of it. So someone we both know, Amy Keys, who gets a little shout out on this podcast, I've had length discussions with her around the idea that really there's a role being around where it's like, every so often, you're starting to get to a point where you need someone to come in and look at the way you're doing things from a tech perspective and identifying those things. Yeah. Now, I've actually become terrible at that specific thing because my go-to is always a VA and a system for a VA and the tool for a VA to do that, where I've almost leaned away from software automation because I have people automation. Not that both don't go hand in hand, like definitely software automation, but I'm sure there are greater levels of this available. So this is probably something that, I mean, in future, from what I'm hearing more and more about, is like almost yearly, you need to speak to someone like this who's just keeping up to date with this tech and go, right, what's going to be the most efficient for how we're doing things there and changing it out. So that's probably what I see in the future. I still think it's probably a great use of the CEO's time, but I also recognize we're both very technical. We understand tech. Can you look at this right now? And I'm just going to use the complete opposite. Let's pretend, I don't know, you're running a restaurant and you're a chef. It's like your technical skills aren't necessarily going to be at the same level as us. There's a very high chance that the awareness of tools and how they work together is just completely off your radar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true. And I think it's good, and it would be great, like a yearly review of your automation process and go, cool, what else can you take away from people? And yeah, that's such a great point. Great idea.
And do you know what I love about that is like you can instantly calculate the ROI. So I'll give you an example. It's like if you can work out, you can save, 5 hours a week through automation of certain tools. It's like, well, if you gain 5 hours of that person's time, what else could they be working on? And you can very much just decide yes or no on numbers. Well, it's going to cost me, maybe it's a few $100, maybe it's a few $1,000 to get this stuff done. But then over the year, that's going to save you, 20 grand. It's like you can very much see that that's a great business decision and something that, might be better off focusing on rather than just spending more money on marketing. That is where you might see a significant improvement in your numbers.
Yeah, I love it. So good. So good. Now, Charlie, did we get to what was your improvement?
Oh, I was trying to skip over this part. I was trying to just lead in on it.
under the mat, yeah. Yeah.
So this is something. So funny enough, James Schrenker will come up again in this podcast. But I read his book on my break, which I can't remember the title. It's slipping my name, but it's his newest book at the moment. I think it's called, and I could be wrong. I'm paraphrasing it here. It's Work Less, Make More. Which I liked from the title, but he effectively spoke in the book at length about tracking your time. Now, I will be the first to admit that as I automated my business more and more, I actually became less accountable to my own time and tracking more and more. So I was automating sections of the business, giving it to other people, but then not necessarily tracking what I was doing with this gained time. Because I'm like, sweet, I'm automating things. I'm winning here. More's getting done without me. So the area of improvement, and this is something I've become increasingly aware of from there, is like I need to really recognize, well, what am I spending my time on a more effective level? And we've both been playing with this piece of software. So again, a tool comes into this conversation, which is rescue time. So I've started tracking all the time I spend on my computer and how much of it's being spent on what. even now it'll be recording that, hey, yep, you're recording an interview and a podcast. On my phone, I've also began tracking all the apps and calls and everything like that. And then what I'm going to do, or how I'm going to resolve this, or the area I really need to improve, is I'm going to get all this data and do like a monthly review. And then my whole aim from here is to kind of like, what's the 10% of time you wasted? And then what was the 10% of time that is most effective? And start kind of going, okay, well, let's remove the bottom 10% of waste and keep putting that into the things that are being effective and contributing results you want in there, which is a topic kind of covered in the book called Effective Hourly Rate.
Love it. That's great, man. That's it's good. And yeah, it is obviously we've been kind of going back and forth. It's a bit scary. I got my yearly report from Rescue Time, and I hadn't properly set my categories up. So it's like, looks like I spent 3/4 of my year unproductive. So I went back, I was like, damn it. And I went back and organized, and it's much, much better now. But it did kind of identify a few things. But then as well, it got me excited because I was like, well, if I was that unproductive last year, and if I'm making these changes and Charlie and I are holding each other accountable and we're sharing our Rescue Time dashboards and stuff, then like, who knows what's going to be the difference this year if that actually tracks up. But the scary thing was it also showed the your most active day and most unproductive day on how much time you spent on. I think I was on computer 16 hours one day. So I was like, that's just ridiculous, the amount of time that I was on a computer that day. I don't know what that day was, but I was like, I don't want a day like that again.
Yeah, well, they come up, and it's a really interesting topic. But like, how many times, being real, have you got to the end of the day and gone, I'm not even sure what I eat today?
Yeah. Yes. Regularly.
Yeah, it happens to all of us. And so that, when I look at from there, is like bringing that into consciousness and going, right, well, that's not going to happen anymore. And really bringing, and I've already noticed it's actually modifying my behavior, because I'm purposely not going on sites that I would, because I know it's being recorded. So this is the thing I'm going, yeah, that's the aim. That's the win. But one of the fantastic features, as we mentioned, I mean, social media is really interesting from there, but it's like, in the example of, social media can be productive or unproductive, and it's great you can set the categories, is that if we're in Facebook, either of us, and we're in our mastermind group, the association, and we're hanging out with our members and we're discussing topics and giving feedback and making videos or contributing or doing things, to me, that's really productive time. I want to be doing more of that. I want to be spending time with the guys, contributing, having our community and all the rest. But if I'm on my news feed, just scrolling, as you do, that's highly unproductive time. So being able to distinguish them and then rank them is, I think, just such an awesome part of that tool.
Yeah, 100%. And it does modify, like my normal social media time is a lot higher. And yesterday I was like, okay, every time I went to go open a new browser window, it's like, saw the little plus symbol in the top right-hand corner. I'm like, I think I spent like 18 minutes on Facebook yesterday, down from what would normally be probably an hour and a half. And I got my checklist and my big 3 done, so I was very, very happy with that. So it's it is always good when it does have a positive effect on things. Yeah,
absolutely. And I just think that if I could be more effective just by putting that in place, like, that's going to make a huge difference to the outputs in business and in life, and just making it more enjoyable. Because like I really, and like one of my things for 2018 is I want to be enjoying more downtime properly. And that's not through doing less. It's just from cutting out the crap that isn't really serving you or of benefit.
Yeah, 100%. That's awesome.
All right. So now we're getting through this sandwich pretty well here. We're moving back into the good layer. We've moved out of the awkward topics. So what are you excited about, Kim? What's coming up?
We've got a few good things coming up. So we've just taken on, we've just organized finally our new team member that's coming on to handle the marketing that will eventually become the CMO role, which I think we spoke about last week as well. So very, very excited about that, to be able to then reclaim things. And I think, but the most exciting part and the thing I'm happiest about is that when we were very young in business ourselves, we had people come on, join the team, done awesome. And it's very hard to change their perception of your expectations after they've already worked with you for like 2 years versus someone coming in fresh and you're going, actually, no, this is the exact level of things and how it needs to operate, versus at the beginning when you're coming in and it's literally you're like a chicken with its head cut off, because anything kind of goes in those stages sometimes. And then try and convert someone from operating like that versus how we're trying to operate now, which is, world-class, absolute best in everything that we do. It's great to see how well we can set that expectation. Now, when we speak to them and go, cool, this is what we expect. We operate like this. This is how we roll. And whereas previously it's like, cool, you can do this. Give me a hand. Like, come, like the boat's filling with water, grab a bucket. Whereas now it's much more concise. I'm very excited to see how our new team that comes through, how they work and work conducively together, because, it's the first time now that I know exactly how I expect people to operate, and so does our general manager. She has her expectations of people now, and we can kind of hold people to that standard freshly from the start, as opposed to trying to change and modify people's behaviors that had previously been with us.
Oh man, you're bringing up a very interesting topic. I think we got to dive into this one a little bit more. So that is such a good thing to be thinking about. My experience is much the same. And this is what it got relayed to me, and this is what I think is going on here, is that when someone comes to working at a company or a new company, right, they haven't formed any habits yet. There's no default to fall into, right? And you get a really good chance to mold that default and set those habits, which is something that's very, very important. I think is a huge mistake in bringing staff on, in not having the habits and systems and expectations you want them to form, because otherwise they'll just form their own, and then that's not necessarily in line with what you do. And then you've got another layer to this where it's like, at the time of being a startup or at an earlier stage in business, like your business can operate so differently, and they become the default habits and systems that person operates. And if you're trying to upgrade, unless they're there, it's like it can be very hard to level people up. On the reverse of that, I've seen people that love the way they operate and they're resistant. They don't want things to change in a business.
Yeah, it's so interesting and just seeing and its personality traits. Like, some people are excited by change and they want to do that. Others just they don't want to and they're stuck, and neither is right nor wrong. It's just dependent on if that's going to work in the company. So for me, I'm very much excited to set a foundation of, like, I always make words up. So awesomeness, right? Within the company. Like, this morning I was on a live stream. I was talking about epicness, and I was like, that's not even really a word, but it is now. So I think by being able to set that, it excites me to see that what level of output we can produce with that expectation and the support and everything to facilitate that. I'm very excited to see what happens. And that's why, it's like I never wish time away, but I can't wait to see where we're at come June, where my target is to see all the things that are happening. And it may not be the same team. It may be other people that swap in along the way as we trial things out. But I'm very, very excited by that. So next week's kind of like the first setting up the systems for them to come on board, making sure our onboarding reflects where I want people to go. So it's very, very exciting times.
Dude, that's so awesome. It really, really is. Now, I have to put a little question on that, because this is, in my opinion, this is the hardest thing to do. Are you ready? So I want to know how you feel about this. It's like, if you're changing your business and you're growing at it, and there's someone in your business currently that you, one, like, they're a good person, and two, they're really good at the role they currently have, but you want them to change. How do you deal with that?
Well, this is the thing. If they're really good at what they do and I like them in the business, what do I need them to change for? So in that regard, I may not need them to change, but it's where, and I think you said last week, where it's like, average is the end, like basically, average is the enemy.
This is the average territory.
Yeah, the average territory. So if they're average though, and they don't want to change, then it's like, that can't be a part of it. Because like I said, I think it was last episode, we were talking about our expectations settings for 2018. is that my toleration level is super low for averages this year. Like I've already had some, especially with our sales team, some conversations, like my tolerance is not there, like for averageness at all this year. So yeah, it's either got to be adjusted, and like whilst I'm sounding probably harsh or hard there, I'm not that way inclined to people, but it's like, this is what we've got to get to. If we can't get to it, then, you make your own decision.
The way I always kind of view it, and ultimately what I was seeing, how you were going to answer that, is like, that's the person, unfortunately, you need to move on, is the averageness, or the person you like that was great at the old role but isn't so good at the new role or where you're going to go. And it's the hardest one, because if someone's terrible at what they do, it's easy to move them on. But ultimately, I keep coming back to is that it's your responsibility as a business owner to make sure that you provide for all. So if you've got one person holding the team back in some way, shape or form, it prevents everyone else from, making good money, growing as the company, bringing more people in, a whole range of things that are important so that everyone is supported within the company and it's at its best. So
yeah, 100%.
That's what I kind of always go back to as default.
Yeah, no, I love it. And now, Charlie, what's your big, like, I know you probably got a list, but what's your exciting things for the next week?
I've got a list. That's how I do things. Kim just off the cuff will just like ask him a question and he comes up with this fantastic answer. I need a little bit of time to think about it. So I suppose the most exciting thing for me at the moment is we're actually heading to Bali. And when I say we, I mean obviously you and me, Kim. It's our time to be over at the Unstoppable Mastermind with Rhonda and Brian Swan, the Unstoppable family. So for me, coming up to that and heading over to Bali is just something I'm really looking forward to. I think that's going to be a crazy good event to come and hang out and spend a bit of time engaging with other exciting entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it's going to be good fun. I'm excited. I'm actually heading over a little bit early, so I'm there on the 18th. So I get a few days kind of prep beforehand. But it's really, I'm also, I didn't want to take that one away from you, so I'll let you have that one for your excitedness, because it's exciting for me too. So it's going to be really good fun. And yeah, I'm looking forward to having obviously a little bit of a relax as well while we're there, because we have so many amazing speakers. It's not like any of us are speaking for a whole day. We've got such a great selection and mix up. But I think you and I are speaking the same day though, so it's good that we get to be presentation bros. So I think we're back to back.
We should do
on
with
the last days.
Get it all happening.
Yeah, definitely.
But I suppose the other thing I'm really excited about as well is like just the community we've managed to pull together here in the association. Like, it's been really awesome to engage with the guys and have them go through some recent planning and goal setting exercise. I'm thrilled to see where they're all going to be kind of going over this next year.
Yeah, definitely. It's been so insightful and such a happy and interactive group, considering most of them don't really know each other, apart from maybe being in other groups together. And only I think a handful would have met each other before. So it's going to be really, really exciting to see what comes out of our plan, which we have our big planning session with them tomorrow. So it's going to be exciting times.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's an exciting time of year in general, I think. We've got some big, ambitious goals, lots of things we're looking forward to from here. But I think that's it for this episode, Kim. Have you got anything else you want to dig into here?
No, that's it for this episode until next week.
Yeah, so that's it for this one, guys. If you are interested in learning more about the association, I'll make sure I have some links to the association under this video, wherever you are watching it. The association is a mastermind group that Kim and myself run. One of the key things we're really heavily focused on in the association is bringing people together to work and collaborate on joint venture projects. So if that's something you are interested in hearing more about, and I'm sure we'll do a podcast episode on joint ventures at some point as well. But that is it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me, Kim. That's it from me.
Awesome. Cheers.
I've got to confess.